Hey, good morning. So we're up to a new Siman Shin Lamed Test, 339, Shin Lamed Test. Very interesting halachas, like miscellaneous things that we can and cannot do on Shabbos. So the first one is Sif Aleph, familiar halacha, Ein roichvin al gabe behema. You're not allowed to ride on an animal on Shabbos. Va'ain le'el Siman Shin Hei, Siif Yutches, Midin halichas karein. Going on a carriage on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, so he refers you back to all the details of riding animals and on carriages on Shabbos. Okay. Base. Ein shotin al pnei hamayim. You're not allowed to swim on Shabbos in water, even in a pool in a courtyard, because when the water is dislodged from your swimming, and it goes out of the pool. Domi nahar, it's like it's the water that leaves the nahar and goes from one rishus to another. But if there's a border around this pool of water, then it would be okay. Since even if the water does sort of get detached, the border of this pool will collect the water and will sort of pull it back into the pool. And therefore it won't be a shina rishus, and therefore it will be okay. Havalek a kli is like a kli, v'lekel mizbah shem yaseh chovish shashayotin, and we're not worried that you'll make a raft of some sort to help you swim. So let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Sif cotton base al pnei hamayim biyadav v'raglov. In other words, if you're swimming, you'll detach the water with your hands or feet as part of the swimming. Shegam raglov okar min hakarka mayim. You'll dislodge some of the water. And the problem is that you might come to make a raft, as we say at the end of the sif. It's some sort of vessel that you make. Something used to help you swim, to stay afloat. It's some sort of pool where you would keep water there for laundry or to soak your flax. Because if the pool is in a rishus harabim, then for sure it's going to be asa. Because the concern is you'll splash water and it will go arbamas, which is shayla v'deraisa. When the water is being sort of forced out because of what you've done, your actions, through your moving your hands and your legs, through your swimming, you're causing the water to move. And therefore, even in a pool, it's considered a concern of you might make a raft, and that's why you can't swim. It's got like high walls all the way around. Now, if you take a look at footnote number 1, he makes some important points. Number 1, he says, so even though there are lots of reasons why you can't swim on Shabbos, one of them is, as he's referring to over here, you might come to make a raft. But then, furthermore, we said previously in Shin Chavov, that there is a minhag not to swim in a nahar or in a mikveh or to go to mikveh tool. The concern is you might come to squeeze hair, or mitam nesofim, and there are other concerns as well listed back there in Shin Chavov. So there's a whole host of reasons why you can't swim on Shabbos. Or machmas kein kosov, and because of that, he writes there in Sif Kotten Chaftalet back in Shin Chavov, that some women refrain, and this is not the practice nowadays, but some women refrain from going to the mikvah on Shabbos. Minhag yafahu. He said actually it's a nice minhag for them to refrain, because the whole reason why you're allowed to be tovel and to rid yourself of your tumah, because you might have thought, hey, it's a problem of tikkun mana, which means you're completing something, you're fixing something, you're changing it from tomei to tahar. Normally tikkun mana is a problem, but it's not a problem for a person to become tahar from a state of tumah, because people will say he's not doing it other than to just cool down, and therefore it's not a problem of tikkun mana. Ulam. Nowadays, people don't cool down because there is a minute not to swim at all. And that's why it's a minhag yofa for some women not to go to the mikveh. But the practice nowadays is that tefillah is done by women on Shabbos. Now, what about a man? For lidbol b'Shabbos machmas keri, and for a man to go to the mikveh on Shabbos because of tumas keri, because it's not proper. It's not a proper tikkun mana. Why? Because in any event, if he doesn't go to the mikveh, he's still allowed to learn Torah and to daven. Those who are makel, and it's not a. We shouldn't protest against them. Of a nitzma b'Shabbos bevada she'ein lahachmir. Ach in tvila mishum tosefes kedusha, just some to go because of tosefes kedusha. Kosav be'aloch hasham sheyesh lihimonu milasis kein b'Shabbos. One should try and avoid it, and there are different minhagim about it. We've spoken about it, but the practice is that many men do go on Shabbos, but some for tosefes kedusha, he says best not. Okay, right. Weiter. Sif Gimel. Ein metapchin. You're not allowed to lahakas kaf al kaf. You're not allowed to clap on Shabbos. V'lo mesapkin, which means lahakas kaf al yerech, to sort of slap your thigh. V'lo merakdin, and nor can you dance on Shabbos. Why? All of these are caught by gezer shem yesakin klisheh. You might come to fix musical instruments. V'afilu lahakas be'etzba ala karka or ala luach. Even to sort of snap your finger on the ground or on a board, or one, to sort of click your fingers, in the way of singing, that's how they do it. Or to shake a nut, you're playing with a kid. You're playing with sort of banging sort of two nuts together. So he will be silent, he'll calm down, he'll be playing. Any sort of musical form of music is prohibited. But says the Mechaba, to shake, to clap your hands with a shinui, with the back of your hand is okay. Now, says the Ramah, now, even though nowadays we clap and we dance and no one protests, that's one reason. In other words, really it's also. But mutav shiur shegin value mazidin. Better they do it b'shegin. They're not aware of this siman in Shulchan Aruch, and better if you tell them, they'll just continue doing it and they'll do it b'mezid. That's one svara. V'yesh emrim to bizman hazeh kol shari. Says the Ramah further that there are those who say that nowadays it's all mutar. There's no problem of clapping or dancing. There ain't on a b'kiyim ba'asiyas klisheh. We're not baki in fixing musical instruments. If your guitar string breaks, you probably won't know what to do. And therefore we're not worried about that. It's a very unusual occurrence. And therefore, says the Ramah, perhaps because we're not boki in tikkun klisheh, therefore nowadays we're very mekel and we dance and we clap on Shabbos. Says the Ramah, ein metapchin, bein be'evloi v'chamosoi. So the first thing we said, you can't clap or you can't slap your thigh. So it can either be as a siman of velus or as a siman of simcha. So ein metapchin, says the Ramah, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Zayin, be'evloi, in your mourning, or v'chamosoi, and in your anger, la'ira hatzar, as in a person is very distressed, or bein machmas simcha, or whether you're clapping or slapping your thigh, machmas simcha, out of happiness. V'chulam mishum gezer shem yisakin klishir, la'ira ha'ever lo simcha. And all of them is also all caught by Shem Yisakin Klisheh. V'lo merakadin, nor can you dance. However, v'yoyim simchas Torah mutal raked, on simchas Torah is allowed to dance, b'shasha omrim kilusim the Torah mishum kavod Torah, where you're singing praises of Torah, and therefore for kavod Torah you're allowed to dance. Given the less pozeh el mishum shvus, because the whole concern is a shvus Shem Yisakin Klisheh. And therefore in B'mokah mitzvah we're not gozer. Aval b'shah simcha shel mitzvah kagoyin nisuin. But if it's a different type of simcha, i.e. not simchas Torah, but it's a sheva brachas, or it's a wedding or something, afilu hachi also, that should be also. V'gam lechavod Torah ein kadai lahatze el tipuach v'rikud v'lo kishkish b'pamayim mezagim. And even if it's l'shem simcha, all we allow is clapping and dancing, and not banging bells or making noise like that. For kol shkein shal kol klishida also, certainly other musical instruments would not be allowed. Let's just take a look at an important Mishnah Berurah, an important footnote of two things. Number one, in paragraph 3, footnote 3, he says, nowadays, Lamaisa, everyone, there's lots of singing and clapping and dancing going on, and everyone seems quite relaxed about it. So, nowadays, our dancing is not osa. In other words, our dancing is not real dancing. Our dancing is we shuffle around in a circle, and even when we do a bit faster, a bit more energetically, that's not real dancing. Real dancing is sort of individual dancing and quite theatrical dancing. That's really what Chazal have in mind. But our dancing is not real dancing. That's number one. Now then, in number 5 at the end, which is at the back of the book, he says something fascinating. I don't know if you thought about this, but I had this just now. We were on Thursday. It was a nice Levana. And I was thinking to myself, should I do Kiddush Levana now? It was after 7 days. But on the other hand, Motzei Shabbos is better. So I check the phone, and it was the forecast was good, and Taka did it Motzei Shabbos. Fine. But what if it's Friday night? You want to do Kiddush Levana? Are you allowed to do Kiddush Levana on a Friday night? So the minhag is not. We don't do Kiddush Levana on a Friday night. Why not? What's the problem? So he says there in the end of footnote 5, Legabe Birchas Halavana, Kosav B'Shat Tzion Lekamon in Tov Chof Vov, Shekiven she'osim oisa b'simcha, v'regidim lava l'rikud she'osa b'Shabbos, because during Kiddush Levana you do it b'simcha, you come to dance, and therefore dancing is also on Shabbos. Lekach omru shelo yivarech b'Shabbos. That's why I don't do Kiddush Levana on Shabbos. V'av she'b'simchas Torah hitir l'irkod. Simchas Torah we allow you to dance. Yesh lechalek shesham ef sheletchesa. Simchas Torah falls on Simchas Torah. You can't do it the next day. Mashe'en kein b'Kiddush Levana she'ef shelakdim al'achra. You're allowed to do Kiddush Levana not on Shabbos. Do it before or do it after Shabbos. I think if the last night falls on Friday night, then you do it. But aside from that, which fits in very well to this, so I think I've seen other reasons why you don't do Kiddush Levana. But this is what the Shatzian says. The reason why you don't do Kiddush Levana on Friday night is because Shemei Yovel Lirukot. It's quite rochel. Yeah, but it could be that dancing is even worse. Chaim. Yeah. All right. There you go. And okay, say that's what he brings. Let's carry on. Sif Cotton Tess. Achas Keneged. So this is going on what? Sif Cotton Tess. Yeah, Achas Keneged, Achas Kederech HaMasherim. If you're snapping your finger like that, Kederech HaMasherim. Kugein Elu, Shemakin Ba'ama Al HaGudol. You like I just did, you click one finger against the thumb. B'ne'ima, pleasantly, V'oisim B'zeh Tnuas Arevos, and you do nice sort of harmonies. V'zeh Shesim Kederech HaMasherim. Like that's what it means, Kederech HaMasherim, in a musical way. If, however, you're doing it to wake up your friend, then no problem. Mashma Magen Avram Deshari, that's okay. Delav Derech Shirhu, it's not in a musical way. However, that even that is not allowed to wake up your friend, not as part of any musical instruments. Okay, let's finish off the Sif with the last Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Yud, Lahakel Bakal. So the Ramah says 2 reasons why we're actually a bit more relaxed about dancing and clapping on Shabbos nowadays. Number 1, Mutzah Shir Shogin, which is not that comforting. And number 2 is because we're not boki in Asiyas Klisheh nowadays, and therefore Lekel Migza. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Hai Lahakel Bakal, Koyal Tipuach V'Sipuk V'Rikud. It's going on clapping and slapping your thigh and dancing. Not on other things. And really, you should only try and do this by Mokum Mitzvah, etc. Okay, Beseda. Dalet. We're not going to get through all of it, but let's start Dalet. Ein donin. You're not allowed to have a din Torah on Shabbos to go to court. V'lochein also litfos. You're not allowed to arrest someone. V'lahachnis lebeis hasoy, and bring him into prison. Mishin is chayev eza einish, somebody who is liable for some punishment. Kadei shelo yivrach, that he won't escape. V'kol shekein also lahal koisei, and certainly you can't hit him to have a bechlal din, because that's administering din, and you're not allowed to be done on Shabbos. V'im yivrach and if he escapes, then that's so be it. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Let's do the Mishnah Berurah till there. Ein donin. Hainu. Afilu dinim ominous. Even financial cases, you can't adjudicate dinei Torah on Shabbos. Why not? Shemelova yovoi lideis ksiva. The concern is you might come to write. Interestingly, if that's the concern, he says, if you look at number 11, he says, "Ben chutzlar is habab b'yontav sheni shel golias lidain b'fnei dayanim b'nei Eretz Yisrael." What if it's your yontav sheni, you're in Eretz Yisrael? So for the dayanim to sit there and judge your case, for them it's okay, it's chol, it's isru chag, but for you it's yontav sheni. Kosav b'shal shuv b'sela chochma shem muta hadova. It's okay. You're allowed to have a din Torah on yontav sheni with Eretz Yisrael dayanim. Kiven she'ikach chashash ein Hashem ba'alei din yichtavu es taneseim. The whole concern is they might write. Hashem hadayanim es Ephraim. Sorry, it's not that you will write, it's that they will write. The dayanim or the sofrim, the court registrars, they'll write. As tanis ba'alei adin. So therefore it comes up that it's okay, because the concern is not that you're going to write down things, but they will write down things, and therefore it would be okay. Okay, continuing the Mishnah Berurah. Even if you don't have the full din Torah, but you're just presenting your case, that is also not allowed. Because the dayanim might write down various points. But kagoyin al tainas pesulim, but other sort of things. For example, a taina that a woman was after marriage was not found to be a pesula, or things like that. Muta commission be'evno as a siman samach base. But tikkun Rabbeinu Gershom, and the next couple of lines I don't really understand. But tikkun Rabbeinu Gershom ma'er hagoyla shelo levatel hatomid. You shouldn't be mevatel the tomid. What does that mean? Hanu hatfila hakavua betzibur lebeis hakneses b'Shabbos. I'm not entirely sure what that means, to be perfectly honest. Okay, if anyone can elucidate that for me, I'd appreciate it. The have sif continued base. The gam yochel lovel de chabur b'Shabbos. So you can't hit the guy. You can't be don dinei Torah. Nor can lahal kaisa. You can't hit the guy. The gam yochel lovel de chabur b'Shabbos. And aside from being over the shvus of don of dinei Torah, you might come to cause a chabura, which is a told of shchita. Bichlal din ve'isa b'Yerushalmi almad chsiv lo yisvaru eish b'chol meshvesechem mikan leboti din shlo yodonim b'Shabbos. Hainu misha haya mechuyev bayom hakadmenim havara. If there's any punishment, you're not allowed to punish on Shabbos. Not only that, but any other punishment. There should be a certain menucha, relaxing, resting on Shabbos. Marshal, etc. So the Sefer Chinuch says that Shabbos is a day of rest, of tranquility, and not a time for dinei Torah or for punishing people. V'im yivrach, and if he runs away, Sifkat Yudalet, ve'in bichlal zeh im echod roitze livrach k'dei la'agen ishtei. Not included in this. If a guy wants to run away, so he's going to cause his wife to be an aguna, that is not included. The bezeh muta hoyle chavshay. There you can. It's certainly muta to arrest this guy or to capture him in some way. Even though dinei Torah are not allowed, but if it's involving getting edus from a man who is very dangerously ill and close to death, and he's giving testimony about an isha shemeis baila, that is so important that it will allow the woman to get remarried. We do what we can, and therefore we will allow that recording of that testimony, i.e. to listen to that testimony, even though it's Shabbos. If we're concerned that we're not going to have another opportunity to hear that edus. Okay, that's a good place to stop, and then we'll carry on Mr. tomorrow from Lo Makadjin, and we don't have weddings on Shabbos.